Washington takes on Penn State in Glendale, Arizona for the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, and even though it's called the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl this year, it's still going to be a great time down there in Arizona. It's going to have warm weather. Both of these teams coming from cold, rainy areas. It's going to be really interesting to see who's able to acclimate to the dry heat better.
And when we talk about this Washington team, they haven't performed to the expectations they hoped to after last year, but the rush defense is still pretty solid. Saquon Barkley for Penn State won't be announcing his intent on whether or not he's entering the NFL draft. And here's why: because he needs to focus. We've seen a couple games this season where he hasn't been focused, especially against that Michigan State team. And this is one of the best rushing defenses he's going to face in the nation. They only allow 93 yards a game. If he plays anything like he did against Michigan State, unfocused, not explosive, offensive line struggles to create those holes, then the most versatile player on offense won't be able to get in many reps. And then you have the passing attack under Jake Browning. Not as strong as last year, but they still average 221 passing yards per game. He's thrown for 2,500 yards this season, gathering 18 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. He plays very smart, but where they might excel is special teams. Don't give the ball to Dante Pettis on a kickoff return because he will definitely make his way to the end zone.
Yeah, he's one of the best punt and kickoff returners in the entire country, breaking the old record for punt returns for touchdowns earlier this year against Oregon. And Penn State definitely has the explosive power to completely dominate teams. Their tight end core has been absolutely amazing in years past, and this year is no exception, with a few NFL prospects on their team at tight end. And that's really helped out their run game because they're able to bring extra tight ends in and either do a play-action pass off of those sets or just run the ball right up the middle with Saquon Barkley, who's been amazing, shifty, and fast all year. And he also has the ability to just power run over people if need be. He's had a couple rough games, especially recently, and has fallen off, especially from that high mark where he was before. But even though he's fallen off from being by far the best player in the country, he's still one of the better players in the country, especially at the running back position and their special teams. This game could very easily be won or lost on special teams, just like a lot of games. But this game, instead of it being special teams defense, it could be the special teams offense. Both teams have very explosive returners in Dante Pettis and Saquon Barkley on both kickoff and punt returns. Whoever is able to win the field position battle from kickoffs and punts could have a huge advantage in this game.
And Penn State will definitely need that because they struggle when it comes to the trench warfare. The two games Penn State really struggled against were Ohio State and Michigan State, and those were decided in the trenches. Unfortunately, the Lions' offensive line just isn't as strong as it needs to be. It's going to have to continue to create those opportunities for Saquon Barkley, but also protect Trace McSorley.
And the one thing that Penn State does do really well is they have a really good defense. They have a very stout, especially run and pretty good pass defense as well. And they're pretty big and physical, and they get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, something that Washington has struggled with a lot this season. Both of their losses come to the two highest volume blitzing teams they've played all year, and Stanford, who doesn't even need to blitz because of how good their linebacker and defensive line core are, and Arizona State, who's one of the highest volume blitzing teams in the entire country, blitzing almost 40% of the time. Whether or not Penn State is able to get pressure without blitzing or with blitzing, it doesn't matter. They've been able to get into the backfield and create havoc all year long. They have a lot of injuries to good key players. Not necessarily the most recent injuries, but they're injuries that have still been lingering and still hurt them a lot, especially towards the end of the season, as you've seen in Arizona State and Stanford. They have 6 players who won't be suiting up for this game because of injury, and at least one more due to suspension. And whether they're able to get a little more depth and whether the extra coaching and Coach Peterson is able to improve upon the injured positions in the coming weeks or in the past weeks is going to be really important to see for the Huskies' success in this game.
We're going to want to watch Vita Vea. His name doesn't sound the most intimidating, but when talking about the trenches, this fella right here is the leader of the pack. He's got 37 tackles this season. Not a whole lot, but where he excels is 5.5 tackles for loss and an additional 3.5 sacks. So be ready for some disturbance in the backfield because this fella right here is going to create some.
someone who's going to have to keep an eye on where he lines up all night long is Trace McSorley. He leads Penn State's offense. He's made a couple mistakes on the offensive side of the ball. He hasn't always made the best reads, but with the huge targets he has, especially in the red zone, he can be deadly. He's pretty accurate when it comes to short passes. It's more the downfield throws that he struggles with. And if he's able to continue to improve, they have a great chance at winning the Fiesta Bowl this year.
Well, based on Washington's performance against Washington State, I want to go with Penn State for this game. I think that they're going to be able to hopefully be aware of the trenches, protect Trace McSorley more than they have in the past. And Saquon Barkley, I think he's going to be on his A game, ready to show NFL.
Yeah, I think Saquon Barkley's going to have a huge chip on their shoulder, and I think Penn State is as well. Even when they had Christian Hackenberg, they had a lot of issues with their offensive line. I think they're going to be able to shore up a lot of those issues, whether it be keeping an extra tight end to block instead of going out on routes like they have in a couple weeks past. I have a feeling Penn State's going to come out with a lot of fire, and Washington is just not going to have what it takes to come out with a win.
If you like this week's episode, feel free to check out some of our others. Thanks for watching RedZone to EndZone.